Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 504 podcast. I have a very special episode here today. We'll be discussing gender roles in relationships and marriage, toxic traits. We're going to be talking about a lot of things here, but let me introduce my very special guest today. Vanessa, how are you today?
I am fantastic, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Now, Vanessa, I've known her for a very long time since college, and she likes to ask questions on Facebook to elicit some sort of responses from people. And as you read the comments, people have different viewpoints on it, but it's all like a beautiful conversation where and we're used to Facebook. You ask a question, somebody has a response, and there's that one person out there who finds something negative to say about it. And then
Absolutely.
it makes you just go, oh, why did I even say anything? But it's a bunch of like-minded people who are having conversations, which is beautiful, and it's something
Right?
that doesn't happen very often anymore.
Right. Well, I do that to gauge I want the naysayers and the haters. The way that my brain works when I put out those topics is I'm a great debater. Remember you and I debating in college? You
Not so. If
never
I lost, then I don't remember, and I don't remember, so that means I
you
lost.
never let me live that down. Like you're like
I'm kind of remembering now, and it was something,
yes.
and I'm like this, but that doesn't. No, no.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like we were a married couple and you worked all the time. I was a crackhead, but I wanted custody of the kids and we were before a judge and jury and the jury had to decide who was going to get custody
Yeah, and they
and
gave
you
you
were
custody.
they gave me
And I'm
custody.
like, but she's a crackhead. I couldn't get past that point.
You couldn't.
And
You
you had
never
this
let
you
me
had
live
this
that
one
down.
point that you said, well, he's at work all day. How is he gonna
Exactly.
be there for the kid? I'm like, she does
Exactly.
crack.
Exactly.
Recreational crack and
So
medicinal. And she still got
yeah,
custody of
so
the kids.
I still do that in debating. I like to hear what people say so I can pick what they're saying. And most of the time what they say, I like being enlightened by other people's, life experiences and things like that. But usually whenever they contradict, whenever it's controversial, whenever it's contrary to what I'm saying, I use it to boost what I already believe is true. So
Well,
it's just
you can have
yeah.
all the haters. I don't want any haters. The moment haters
I
come
love
to me,
it.
I go, okay, you got it, you got it.
I
I,
love
I
it.
I like to avoid conflict, and that's conflict in itself.
Yeah, I love
I'll see
conflict.
people get attacked on Facebook, and I want to
Uh-huh.
join in, and I go, no, they're gonna come for me next.
But you're so smart. You have so much to offer.
Yeah, but you got to remember, a lot of these people are unhappy, and it doesn't
That's
matter
true.
what you have to offer them. They're
That's true.
unhappy, and as some people will say it, the most unhappy population are the ones with the loudest voices.
That's true.
And those are the ones who are enacting a lot of change in the country now.
Yeah, that's true. But see that prompts me to talk a little bit louder and talk a little bit faster because there are people out there who are being silent by these unhappy people that we need to do the same thing. Why isn't our voice just as loud? Why can't we change the narrative with positivity?
Because there's a victim culture in this country.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I have a way around that too. But it starts with conversation.
It does. But
Yeah.
some people can't have the conversation. They get emotional and they start doing insults and screaming, and
Yeah.
then it's no longer a conversation at that point.
Yeah, I agree with that, but that's when you like block and get them off.
Like, cause
Hide your
that's
comment.
always my nightmare. Like debating someone and they start screaming and yelling, and then somebody from nowhere goes, "What did you say? What did you say to make this person do this?" And it's like, what? Clearly, I'm calm and I'm having a conversation, and this person's
Yeah,
crying and screaming. Tell that person to relax or calm down.
yeah,
But because they are perceived as the victim,
right.
people automatically come to the person's defense,
I
as
love it.
opposed to trying to figure out both sides and then
Yeah.
determining, okay, well, I can see both your points of view, but let's move on. Dating roles. You asked a very good question about dating as it pertains to what's expected from the man and the woman. So go ahead and ask that question.
So my question on Facebook was, it's the first date. Who's paying and why?
And my response to that question was, It should be the man if he's pursuing the woman. I think if he's pursuing the woman, there is the idea of courtship that I think is not old fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think dating needs to necessarily happen at a restaurant where we're sitting down and we're having dinner. And even with that, I have a rule. If I take you on a date, you can't take leftovers home because I don't know who's going to eat those leftovers. And if you got an ex-boyfriend who comes around from time to time, he's not eating the rest of your steak and fettuccine pasta.
Mark.
You can't take leftovers home. Sorry.
Mark.
Sorry. Want to know
Okay.
why? Because I was the guy who ate leftovers from an ex-girlfriend when she went on a date with somebody else. I ate those leftovers.
And how did it make you feel?
I was like, sucker. And because of that, I had to adjust my rule. You can't bring leftovers home.
You can't bring leftovers home.
No. So
So your date-
if you order the steak and fettuccine pasta and you
Yes.
can't eat it all, it goes in the
Yes.
garbage. It doesn't go in Man's stomach later when Man comes over for a visit.
OMG. You have just revolutionized, humanized dogs peeing on trees.
Explain that to me.
You're saying this is where I put my value and it is not to be shared with anybody else. I've marked my territory. This is our situation, including the food. Do the utensils stay in the restaurant or do you have a rule for that too?
I don't know. If I date like a real, like, trashy chick, they normally ask for plastic. That's a joke. That's a joke. It's a joke.
No, my goodness.
But there have been
you're
girls that have
serious
asked for
about it.
plastic utensils. They're like this. Y'all got plastic, and it's like, ooh, this isn't going far.
You know what? I can't. Mark, are you serious? Is this what you're going to teach your boy? Is this what you're going to teach your son?
Absolutely.
Go on a date, but no leftovers.
She can't take leftovers home. No.
Good.
Absolutely. Now, it's not like if you're. This isn't for like when you're seriously dating someone. This is like
Okay.
meeting for like the first couple of dates. You still don't know if that person's still seeing someone, whether an ex-boyfriend's still in the picture. You just know that you're possibly interested in the person.
Okay.
But come on, somebody out there saying, yeah, my ex ate some of them leftovers.
OMG Charlie Brown. Okay, this is why I have a theory that men are the prostitutes, not women. Like women can be prostitutes, but men are more so prostitutes because of the value that they put on a dollar when it comes to investing in the opposite sex.
And I look at it as the other way because I think there are women that expect you to spend a certain dollar rate in order for
That's
you to
true.
get further into the relationship with them.
Absolutely. So like if you buying steak, you'll get lucky tonight, most likely.
And then that led to your next question as far as what is your expectations?
Yeah.
Honestly, my only expectation is possibly having another date to figure out whether I want to get to know you. I've never been in a situation where I bought a girl a drink and said she going home with me. And even though you hear some of that in songs, I've never expected that. It's just kind of just, let's see where it goes.
Well, that makes you very rare. It does. So the expectation, and this is why prostitution comes into play, because it's an exchange of power, sex for money between male and female.
Or
Whether
goods,
you go
depending on how you look at it. Exchange of goods.
exchange of goods. So the dollar amount that you spend, you're putting on whether or not for her body, basically. Whether or not you get her body at the end of the day. Men.
I don't know if it has anything to do with the dollar amount spent. I mean, you got to remember when I was dating, me no have a lot of money, so so you better enjoy it. Listen, can you please warm up her sandwich? Yeah, she wants it toasted. Is that extra? Look, hey, they don't charge for toasting here. What about the guacamole? The guacamole's free.
Not the dollar amount as far as quantity, right? If I'm a man and I end up spending $100 on a date, my expectation is that she's going to give in to something, right? Maybe it's a makeout session in the car, Maybe it's something else a little, on the sofa. Maybe it's going all the way.
For $100 though, for $100, that's more on the low side. Like my expectation for that would be if I said, "Come to Las Vegas with me."
Yeah.
That's my expectation. Like if I
Yeah.
say, "Hey, we're going somewhere and we'll
Yeah.
spend time," that would probably be more likely to me that it may happen because I'm now
Right.
taking you out of your element. Food is
Right.
probably included. Housing is included. We're going to be spending time together. And I'd be more likely to say, all right, this should probably happen in this environment. But for $100 dinner, you got to remember, I'm eating half of that $100 dinner.
Right. But again, you're one of the good guys. So I mean, what's the going rate, or what kind of perverse conversations are going on around the water hole? Like when a group of the locker room talk.
You mean for men? I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I got a lot of women friends, so I don't know.
You got
I can't. I wouldn't even be able to tell you. And all my
But
guy
we do
friends in
see it.
relationships.
We do see the
But not all of them.
the reenactments of it in our culture, right? Look at Tinder, all these dating apps that people sleep together for less
Is
than a
Tinder
meal.
the gay one or no? No, that's Grinder.
Grinder, yeah.
Tinder. Yeah,
Grindr's the good
so
one.
Grinder's the gay one and Tinder's the yeah. But you
Yeah.
gotta remember we have a nice dating. Before I get to the dating culture, let me ask you this. I was watching a YouTube video and there was a girl on there, very attractive woman. She has a daughter. She was getting ready to go on a date with a man. And she said, "Oh shoot, I gotta bring food to my daughter. Can you run me by McDonald's real quick?" And the guy's like, "Sure, no problem." They get to the window. She's like, "Yeah, let me get the cheeseburger kids meal with a shake." And when they got to the actual window to pay, she expected him to pay.
Mm.
And he was looking at her like, "I'm not paying for your daughter's food." And then in her mind, she said, "He will never get any of this."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, what's the protocol? Was he supposed to pay?
Mm.
So,
Yeah, he was supposed to pay.
So in that case, would you have expected a man to pay?
No.
Okay.
I grew up a little bit differently, but only because I grew up as a feminist, right? So I have absolutely I put no expectations on the man except to be respected and seen as equal, right? So whenever I went on a date, even with my husband, and I snatched him up because he was my boss.
Me too. Me too.
You too?
No, I'm just saying, like Me Too movement. Me too. It's your boss. It's your boss.
I had to quit before we made it official because there was a policy in place.
Yeah.
But he's totally worth it. I kind of like got fired and quit in the same moment.
Did you get unemployment?
Legit, no.
Ah.
No, I have
That's
too
how
much
you.
pride.
I'll show you. I'm getting paid to date my husband.
I definitely had way too much pride back then to get unemployment or handouts or anything like that. I made my own way. So whenever my husband would take me out, unless I really, really didn't have it, I would tell him I didn't have it. And if he would insist that he got it, then I would go. But if it's just like, hey, let's hang out Friday night and we go to a restaurant, I'm either paying half or I'm buying dessert and leaving the tip. Like, I'm not going to be out here any kind of way because the expectation for men, you guys, or most men, this is a generalization about men. We see it today in our culture and even in the way that we date. That woman expected the guy to buy that Happy Meal because men have taught women that is the expectation.
So it's our fault.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to ask a question based upon what you said. You said you grew up feminist.
Yeah.
Have any of your views changed from you growing up feminist now via being married or from having children, specifically boys?
My views have not changed. The emotion connected to those views have changed. So I'm a lot less angry. And I try to find the peace within my views. So one of the main arguments in my marriage in the beginning was, I work too. I will not be the only one cleaning dishes. My husband didn't grow up that way. He grew up traditional. A wife is supposed to keep the house clean. And I'm like, nah, fam.
We live
And
here.
the way, yeah, and the way that I came off was like mad, like standoffish, harsh, aggressive. So, and I blamed it on femininity when really I had daddy issues and I didn't know how to take direction.
Ooh, ooh, that's strong.
It's true. It took me, I would say maybe 6 years. I've been married 11 years. It took me maybe 5 or 6 years to finally submit.
Well, that 4 to 6 year range is like, I
Yeah.
think that's the, if you can make it through the 4 to 6 years, because I believe like the first 10 years you're still learning each other.
Mm,
So even like the 4 to 6 years, I think that's where many of the problems are gonna arise. Was like those clashes, those like real
yeah,
strong clashes.
for
It's like
sure.
whoa.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think
So,
during that time, that's when you start to question a lot of times: is this the person I'm supposed to be with? Did
for
I
sure.
make a good decision here? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my views, my feminist views haven't changed. I feel like I'm equal to my husband. I feel like I'm equal to any man who's in my company. Because number one, I'm valued by God. I have something to offer the world, right? So these are my measurements. It's not based on my reproductive system. It's not based on my anatomy or my biology, my genetic makeup. Like, so yeah, my views haven't changed. So there is a softer, more intelligent approach to my femininity.
now did that also change because you learned that that's the way that he takes, that you'll be better able to communicate with him?
Yes, one I was counseled. I was because this when I tell you we argued over dishes for years, and I'm like, yo, I worked a 10-hour day. You clean them.
That's like me leaving my shoes in the middle of the floor. My wife had to say, "Enough, enough," and I'm like, "What's wrong?"
Yeah, me and my husband have a system for that. We'll talk about that another time. But what was I saying?
You said that you went
I
to counseling.
Yes, and she goes, okay, so do you want to not do the dishes or do you want peace in your home? And I was like, I'll clean the dishes. I wanted peace. And that helped me to that kind of surrendering and that kind of submission, that as a house, if it's dirty, I had to change my disposition and say, you know what, let me be the first one to do it because I want a happy home. I want it to be at peace. What my feminism taught me throughout my years was you don't surrender like that. You keep your independence and you hold on to your point.
So you learned that you'd rather be in a relationship than be right.
I'd rather have peace than be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you are right in your method, it might be better to just kind of just give a little bit, and then by changing yourself, your spouse changes as well.
Right, because I trust who I married.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't marry an ogre. Like both parties within a marriage have to be willing. We have to be willing to be wrong. We have to be willing to be humble. We have to be willing to submit. So, and it doesn't matter what gender you are. Like, like if you're both willing to choose each other, and that's what I want to teach my sons, because I want to teach my sons that they have to know the value of their money when they go on dates. And Mark, the emoji with the brain is blown. Yeah. I was like, yo, why does the first date have to be at Ruth's Chris? Like, let's go get some coffee.
I've never been to Ruth's Chris, so.
You never been to Ruth's Chris?
And this is when I normally say, do you want me to repeat it, or you can just take it at face value?
Yeah. Okay. Next Christmas, I got you.
Ruth's Chris. I've heard about it in the Fabulous song, and then Joe Budden talks about this tomahawk steak all the time.
Do you like steak?
I do like steak, but I've gone to Longhorn. I'm assuming it's more of an upscale Longhorn.
Do you really want me to answer that, or do you?
Well, because I'm figuring if I had to put my steakhouses down, it's Outback, and then it's Longhorn, and then it's probably Ruth Chris.
Yes, sir. You are. That's a good summation. I would put yes.
Okay.
This I got you this Christmas. I'll just send you and wifey.
Because I'm looking, like, as I think about it, I'm like, so what are they saying? I just imagine all three restaurants are standing over the same cow, and it's like, Hi, I'm Ruth Chris. I want that piece right there. And then Longhorn goes, give me whatever's left. And then like the little scraps. Outback goes, I'll take it, mate.
Pretty much.
And put it on the Barbie.
That's what that's exactly what it is. That's it, yes. It's the best meat, best preparation, finest ingredients, white linen on the table. Wonderful.
Got it. I want to go back to dating roles. Was there another question you had as far as dating roles? I know that we didn't let into what the expectations are as far as men and women. Was there another question that you had as far as just dating in general, as far as men and women?
And we're not getting into expectations right now.
I mean, we kind of touched on expectations a bit, but I want to make sure we move past the dating roles and possibly going into gender roles.
Okay, so with casual dating,
Okay.
are we really looking for courtship, like you mentioned earlier? Are we looking for a mate for right now or for the future? And is it harming us? Are we stretching ourselves too thin, pun intended? Are we stretching ourselves out too thin to by the time we get to marriage, we ain't no good for nobody?
So, I have a theory about that as far as dating culture. Now, and this is very generalization. Women, I feel as if, will at a certain age look to date men with the intention of marrying and having children, where men might be at the same age. So let's say we have a 27-year-old. The 27-year-old woman is more likely to look at the man and say, okay, this is someone I can possibly have kids with and grow with, so forth and so on. Where a man is going, I'm going to probably find a girl later. So I think that men going to it with dating, women going to it with different, more permanent outcomes.
Yeah.
And what happens is, and these are good questions that women should ask. I think that women are taught not to ask questions because they're going to scare the guy away. Hi, do you like kids? What's your view on marriage? What age would you like to get married on? And a guy is like this. Whoa, she's bugging. She's crazy. But in reality, those should be the questions that men are looking to answer also. But I think we just have a culture of just dating and casual dating. Like in Japan, they have an epidemic going on because no one's getting married. Because it was such a patriarchy that the man was in charge, and then women with the feminist movement decided, you know what, no, I can be in charge, I can have my own money, and the women don't want to submit to men, and the men are like, well, I don't want a headache of this woman, and they'll date and they won't have kids. So their biggest population of people will all be dead in 30 years. Because their children are not dating, they're not marrying, and they're not having children.
That's insane.
But I think this is going to be the issue that we have in the United States as well. We have a huge population of people who are dating, they're not getting married, and if they do have children, I think a large percentage of it is out of wedlock.
Oh, from all the casual dating they've been doing.
Yeah, all the casual dating.
Holy crap!
So I think dating culture is destroying marriage culture. Because with dating culture, what do we say? What is his name? Gucci Man. Women like buses. Miss one, next 15, another one coming. Something like that. And we always feel that way. Another one's gonna come, and then you're 40.
Right.
And then now it's like, ooh, the pickings are slim.
Oh snap! Well, that and women have a biological clock that men don't.
Yes.
Yes, true. You guys can have babies at 72.
No, who's having babies at 72?
No, but you're not even. I
get what you're saying.
You can, yeah. Yo, that's crazy, and I think I haven't heard that until tonight, but yo, like, isn't it? It's two ingredients. It's two causes of this situation where women don't want to surrender or submit to men. One, because of the oppression of women from men, and two, the toxic spewings of radical feminism. If you're so independent that you're willing to have the species at risk that you don't want to procreate, like, and it's terrible how the difference between single mom raising or single dad raising and children who are raised in a marriage. Like the quality of kid that comes out of these situations.
Yes.
And that's something we can't turn a blind eye to either. And yet we still keep casually dating. It's so dangerous. Dating culture today does absolutely nothing to prepare people for marriage.
And I think if you triple that down with social media telling you that there's another person, there's another person, there's another person, and not
Yeah.
only is another person, the warped view that we have in the opposite sex based upon what we can see on social media,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we're always looking for that perfect person.
Yeah, man.
And that perfect person really doesn't exist.
Nope.
The guy with the chiseled jawbone with the 4 o'clock shadow beard, his breath stinks when he gets up in the morning.
Right.
His poop stinks when he's in the bathroom. But once we lose that luster, that gloss, that beautifulness, it's like, this is what I'm getting, and it's like, no, let me find the next perfect one.
Yeah.
It's always like the crackhead that's looking for the high, the first high, and they keep doing more crack to find that first high again.
Yeah.
That's
I
sort
agree
of like
with
what
that.
dating is.
I agree with that. With Instagram, because everything is filtered, you got the Instagram models, social media, like Instagram models.
Mhm.
Do you think beauty is for sale as far as dating? Like,
I do think that beauty is programmed, and I think
yes.
it changes every so often based upon whatever is being marketed. Like right now, and for the life of me, I can't understand why those really big butts with those really skinny waists, that Kim Kardashian body
Mhm.
that a lot of women are going and getting surgery for is now the standard of beauty, and it's like, ugh,
So you don't, not your thing, huh?
no,
No.
no, not really.
Yeah, naturally, it's not women's thing either.
Like I look
Hence
at,
the surgeries.
and I'll look at one person's. I don't know if you know who she is, Bernice Burgos.
Nope.
She almost broke up T.I.'s marriage apparently. Like she's dated a lot of men, and she has the body that many women will go after. I'm gonna text you who she is so you can see. But when you look at her, it's like they all have the same surgeries. It's all the same surgeries to look like the same exact person, because that's the standard of beauty. And then we don't know what the repercussions are going to be 15 years from now, when the booty cup has like shifted over your butt and you can't poop or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's, well, God forbid, right?
Yeah,
But
or the hip thing that you did gets displaced because now you're carrying a child there, and it throws it off.
So wouldn't you say it possibly stemmed from Jessica Rabbit?
No, because even with Jessica Rabbit, she didn't have this huge, fat, ginormous butt to go with that tiny waist. She was slim, but all of her body parts were pretty like
In
proportionate,
proportion?
with the exception of maybe her breast. Those were
Would
kind
you?
of like, but you can do that like with push-up bras and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as far as now, women are getting that disproportionate body with surgery and with help
Yeah.
in order to
Would
fit this mold of what they're marketing as beauty.
do you think it stems from pornography?
I don't know.
Like the way that men objectifies female beauty and the female body for their pleasure, for their fantasy. Because Kim Kardashian isn't the first to do it, but she's trying to meet a certain standard, and it's definitely not, I don't believe it's her own. To feel desirable in a man's eye, I feel like women are running to go get these surgeries.
But let's see. I don't know if it's to feel desirable. I really think a lot of these women who are getting these surgeries are doing it for the come up. They want to be able to date men who have a lot of money, and I think that a lot of those athletes, those ball players, those really like the ones who want to be taken care of, they all fit this mold. So that way, there's no discussing whether I will or won't do something. You see what I look like. You know who I am. I need this amount, and let's do it. And then off to the next person. and then off to the next person, because I think in that surgery, that is their livelihood. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what these women do for a living,
Yeah.
but I know who they're linked to,
I
and
get
I know
it.
what comes with that life, and I know what they have because of it. But I don't think it's because they want to be desirable to a man longer than a short portion of time.
So what fault or responsibility or accountability do men have when they've set this beauty standard that they're saying, "Hey, girls, you see this? I'm a ball player and I make, 2 million a game. This is what I'm looking for," and all the women are flocking to. Well, she got her a millionaire. Let me do such and such. Like, who's
So
at fault?
I don't think it's a man fault at all. At all. I don't want to say at all, because I do think when there are problems, if it deals with men and women, we both
Yeah,
have a fault to play. But I
yeah,
think a lot of it deals with women. Even just accepting these beauty conditions and saying, I need to do this, I need to do this, and I got to spend $300 on the wig and so forth and so on.
yeah,
Like, if you look at men and women when they do Hollywood movies, the women are in makeup chairs for hours,
yeah,
and women have considered that to be the standard of, this is
yeah,
what I need to look like.
yeah,
So when men see it, we're all expecting, well, that's what she looks like. I'm expecting you to look that way. And I do think men have unrealistic expectations. Everyone's not going to look like that. They're not going to be this dress size. They're not going to be this height. Sorry, their eyelashes are not that long in real life. They will come off, and if the wind is blowing, it may come off while you're talking to her. So I think
yeah,
it's a combination of people having unrealistic expectations. If I look this way, I'll get the ball player. And the
yeah.
man goes, I expect my women to look this way.
Like the rest of the ball players.
Yeah. Or they just date the same women.
Yeah, I can't, yo. But then what happens to authenticity? It's just like this. It's a word. It's a concept out there in the ether. Although millennials are, that's what they demand the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're challenging the status quo. They're asking people. They want to see the raw deal. They're challenging businesses, brands, what movements they want to see authenticity, and yet no, what you're asking for is slowly diminishing with every filter.
I think most people are just followers. And they're so ashamed to admit that they're a follower that they'll purposely do things that they don't like just so they won't be listed as a follower.
Isn't that sad?
I think that's just what it is. I think people naturally are followers. And I think very few of us are actual leaders and independent thinkers. But we all want to be labeled this independent thinker, even if it's not who we are. So we'll go out and have this independent thought that may be wrong, but it's our thought. And I'll stand by it, even though it's wrong. And when somebody calls me out on it, I'm just going to scream. And they'll leave me alone.
And pay for my dinner.
You can't take it home. You better eat it all.
That's just.
All right, I want to move on because we're already over 30 minutes.
Okay.
Malcolm and Marie. You've seen the movie. You watched the 2-hour-long argument at 2 a.m. Now, I've had that argument before. Not specifically what they're talking about, but that argument where I just want to go to sleep and the other person just won't let it go. I've had that argument. But I want to get into the dynamics of their relationship, because there are toxic things that the other person fed off of. So for Malcolm, I think he found broken women, because he doesn't mention that she's the only person who was a drug addict.
Absolutely.
So he looked for broken women. Right. And Marie, in her case, I really felt as if she never thought more of herself, that this was the best she was ever going to get. And she can't leave because she'll never find better than this. So even though when he tells her things, and there are certain points when, as a man, you're watching this and you're going, ooh, he said that? Because I do think as you're arguing, there's a little line in your head. And you're like, yes, if I step over that line, we'll be divorced in a month.
Yep.
And we all know those things that we can say to another person, and you kind of have to like just veer yourself back and say, you know what? if I say this, this is going to be the outcome. And I
Yeah.
think he saw that line and he didn't just step over it. He did hopscotch over it. Like he took his rock and he threw it over there, and then he did the little jump like and he jumped and picked up his rock and he spun in the circle or spun in the circle and then came back. And then he ended it with a, "But I love you." What? Oh my god.
Toxic. Like, okay, so for your listeners, I would advise you guys, if you're just going to watch that movie on curiosity or you just have nothing to do on a Sunday afternoon, watch it on fast forward. I watched the entire thing on fast forward. And one of the things you're going to notice, just sidebar, because I look for edits and stuff, that mac and cheese was one pot. She emptied the one pot into the bowl. He's eating it. He's going to town on that bowl, gets up to get seconds. Where were the seconds? The pot was already empty. I'm just saying, Sam Levinson. Sam Levinson.
I do think that the design was really cool of the movie, where it seems as if it was taken in one shot most of the movie.
Yeah.
So I like that. So it kind of gives you that element of you actually being there.
Yeah.
But it leads me to the question, why do we find toxic traits in other people attractive earlier? And then later we look at it and go, oh my God, how did I not notice this about the person?
Well, because nobody's really going to therapy. I mean, the mental health crisis, we've seen it pick up maybe the last 7-8 years, talking about mental health. And that's mostly because celebrities have made their therapists and counselors popular, right? So it's only through the lens of the people who have a platform to say, hey guys, mental health is a serious issue. And then the rest of the followers come along like, yeah, mental health is an issue. But we still don't have enough people in therapy.
Or consistently going to therapy like they should. And not just starting and then saying, I've been in therapy.
Right, to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Look, that mirror that's in front of you. You see all your ugliness. You gotta go to sleep with it, wake up to it, take a bath with it, eat with it. Like, you gotta do the work. I'm in therapy, thank God. And it's ugly and it's gruesome and it's painful. But I've come a long way in maturity and in my views and value. Like, nobody can take my value away. And I think that's what Marie had, because you're absolutely right. She doesn't feel like she could do better than him. As much as she proclaimed it. The last 16 minutes of that movie, when she's in the middle of the bed and she's on her rant about him thanking her. Yeah. Beautifully done. Like, I love that part. And I'm like, finally, say what you mean, right? Like, it was just so direct. No more games. No more come kiss me on the couch. We'll make out. And
that was just weird. Just the make out scenes in general were just like, it kind of threw me off, because it's like, here's the intermission.
Well, it also testament to how dysfunctional they are even in their intimacy. Like, and I felt really bad for him when they were making out on the floor after she got out of the tub, and he's kissing her, and he's like, okay, I gotta go pee. Just stay right here. Don't think of anything. Don't say anything.
Her mind wandered right away.
That tear came down her eye, and I was like, oh. That's it. And when she said his name, when he walked into the living room, he was like, yeah. Yeah. It was just like a defeatist. And it's just like, even if you, and this is Malcolm's fault, if you know Marie is so jacked up that you have to forewarn her, to try to control her, to be in the moment while you quickly leave and come back, that her emotional stability is that reactive. Why aren't you feeding her? Why is it like, why aren't you nourishing her in a way that will help her and give her her own value separate from you? Because but he loves to be in control.
He loved to be in control, and he broke her down so that she would not leave. If you look at the end of the movie, he wakes up, and what is he doing? He's looking for her to make sure she's still there. So in the end, even though she wouldn't leave, he needed her. Like the panic on his face when he's looking for her. He's like, like he's walking around, he's looking all through the house for her.
Yeah.
It's like maybe he felt as if he didn't deserve any better.
Yeah. I wish, like, just for director, I wish the morning was in color to give us some kind of hope. But for it to, like, it was true to it stayed true to the dysfunction from when the car pulled up to them standing outside in the backyard looking at the sunrise. Like, this thing was steeped. A lot of people, I read on people's reactions on social media about the movie, it's a 2-hour argument at 2 a.m. It's too heavy. I stopped halfway. I saw 20 minutes of it and I couldn't. And I'm like, taking in this information. That's why I fast forward the whole thing. Because I'm sensitive. Like, you ain't have to have me depressed. I got stuff to do. But yeah, it was toxic. Who did you mention? Kiki, Tasha.
Yeah, he mentioned a bunch of broken women before him.
Broken, and then where he placed them in the movie. And you see the position, the gender roles within their situation. Mm-hmm. He catered to her emotions to the point where he could just snatch his love from her whenever he felt like it to keep her holding on. Yeah. And she went to the power. Her power play was going after his career.
Yeah.
She's like, you don't have an original thought. You would have made this movie without.
She attacked his pride.
Yeah.
Which is what he had.
Yeah.
I do have another observation about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a portrayal of how people don't know how to argue. Mm. Like, from the very beginning, it's 2:00. He's drinking. We shouldn't have this conversation here. Maybe not right now. And it also, like, when I'm looking at it, like, that face that she's making, like, it's just devoid of all emotion, and you can tell, like, something's bugging her.
Yep.
Every man has seen a woman in that moment, and we said, what's wrong? Because you know something's wrong, and it doesn't matter how many times he says nothing. It's like, what's wrong? But there are also certain points during that argument where it should have been like, yo, we got to put a pin in this.
Yeah.
Nothing productive is going to happen. And she tried. So from her argument, there were certain components of the argument where I felt that the role was reversed in the argument because she was more of the logical one and he began becoming more of the emotional one, which is normally attributed to women being the emotional and men being the logical. Mm-hmm. And I love how they switched it at one point because she said, nothing's going to be done tonight. Let's just drop it. And I see myself, like, a lot of times when I'm having an argument, that's my role. Listen, nothing's going to be productive right now. Let's just drop it. Let's talk about it at a different time. Yeah. And the other person who's emotional won't drop it.
Yeah. I've been Marie a few times. Because in my emotional immaturity, I'd rather hold on to the point than pursue healthy communication. In healthy communication, we both walk away with understanding.
Yes.
In me holding on to my point, I'm doing so much damage that it's going to take way more communication later to get through this thing. Like, so I know I knew how she felt. I did notice the switch. I enjoyed the switch because it showed that they were equally damaged.
Yes. You didn't look at one person and say that this person's more damaged than the other. You looked at them and said, yeah, they're both messed up.
Yeah, I feel like they're both equally messed up. Even in the way that the communication, you made a good point. Nobody know how to argue. She's making mac and cheese. That was the most passive aggressive mac and cheese I've ever seen on film because she threw it in his face later. And even while he was eating it, she was like, yeah, take another bite, but I still can't get a thank you. And it's just like, yo, let the man enjoy his mac and cheese. She was logic. I like how it switched. It was a balance of craziness on both of them. Because for her to point out how vanilla his upbringing was, that he didn't have a care in the world. He had both his parents. He's never been addicted to anything. And it's just like, you need my crazy to validate who you are. Mm-hmm. So what kind of sane person, quote, heavy quotations, pursues crazy to feel validated and relevant within their own lives? That was Malcolm.
Yeah. The video I sent you of Tommy, when it's like you see the guy, he's just kind of just like laid back. And he's like, yo, let me just get up out of here. Like, you bugging. And she starts crying. And it's like that crazy comes out. And I'm looking at her like, oh, my goodness. Oh, my my goodness. It's like, I think that some men are attracted to some crazy in women, and I think that some
Yes.
women are attracted to some crazy in men.
Yes.
Like, I'll share with my friends sometimes. It's like that guy who's out there, rough, tough, bugging the street will grab a man and beat him up. And he's like this, oh
Yeah.
man, he's so masculine, he's so strong. It's cool until you two get into an argument, and then you don't know whether he's gonna hit you.
Mm.
And then it's like, ooh, man,
Well, my God in
bugging.
Zion. Mm. It's crazy. I feel like I've been like that too. I was in a relationship where I pursued crazy, but I pursued crazy because I didn't know my value. I didn't know my worth. And that sounds very like hashtag-ish, know your worth. But like legitimately, the more you know about yourself, the more you know what you deserve. Right? Nobody's doing the work to find out who they really are. We need celebrities. We need these different kind of cultures and these trends to tell us who we are, to tell us what to buy, to tell us how to talk, to tell us what side and position to take on controversial issues. And it's really, 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 really sad.
It is. The other day, I was looking for a pair of sneakers. Now, there's these Balenciaga sneakers, not the one that look like socks, not those. There's another one. They're really bulky sneakers. And when I saw them, I'm like, oh my God, they're so ugly. Oh my God, they're so ugly. I've seen them enough times on different people that I said, let me get a pair of those and see if I can freak them real quick. Because we get programmed by celebrities and other people to say, this is what success looks like. This is what happiness looks like, to the point where I'm going to buy some ugly, bulky Balenciaga sneakers that every day look slightly better.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
It's programming.
And it's the same way when we apply gender roles. We have so many things coming at us, right? You as a man, you have everything telling you right now how to be a man. I have all kinds of cultural, trendy BS telling me how to be a woman, how to be a wife, how to be a parent. And it's lacking, yo. Like it's driving us crazy to the point where we're losing ourselves. And it's bad because we all have a cemetery to meet. Like, let's just keep it real. We all have a grave waiting on us. The fact that we can accumulate so many minutes, so many seconds, so many hours, so many years, surrendering our will to other things and cultures that don't even know they don't even know what they're talking about. Like, I believe, like, I'm a believer, right? I've been saved since I was 8 years old. The only constant is God. And yet we do everything to disprove him because we've been so conditioned to junk food that when we eat broccoli, we're like, yo, what's this? But broccoli will save your life. Go ahead and eat McDonald's every day. You can eat broccoli every day and not die. You can't say the same for McDonald's. So it's just like we've abandoned biblical principles, right? Because we're more comfortable in the way that the world does things. It's just so sad, man. It's so sad.
And I think now we're at the point in society, and I'll make this last point before we wrap it up, that we're either learning that we were taught wrong, or we have to be open to the fact that maybe what we know is wrong. Even to the point where we have to recondition and relearn, okay, well, what is my job as a man? What is my spouse's job? What should I expect from a wife? Versus, and Kevin Samuels brings up really good points. I know you know of him, and we'll talk about him later. As far as, well, what is it that you're supposed to offer to a man? What does it mean to be a helpmate? Versus just dating, and then you'll be able to date, and you'll get plenty of dates. But what is it that a man's looking for when he wants to marry you? And there we have a disconnect between a lot of men are interested in me versus men who want to actually marry me and have a life with me. And I think a lot of women and even men are learning this now.
Yeah.
Because we've been ruined by just dating.
We've taken divine principles and we've put it in our poopy hands as human beings. And we're wondering why when we apply it, it doesn't work. We're wondering why it's stinking up the place.
Well, isn't that the story of creation up until now?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But we've abandoned the fundamental truths of our existence, and we've taken it into our own hands. And things are shot. Like, things are terrible. Even I like that quote. You're gonna have to say it again so I can write it down. But even when the evil shows up in the things that are quote unquote good, like movements to protect victims or innocents, or there's always an evil that comes and just grabs it. And then you have to think, what is the foundation of the movement? Is it based on the divine, or is it based on flawed humanity?
But Vanessa, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for being a guest. It's
You're so welcome.
We got to do this again.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any last words before we kick it off and end it on our 50-minute podcast?
Go to therapy. The more you know about yourself, the better you'll know about the opposite sex.
Because knowledge is power.
That too.
All right. Thank you, Vanessa. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
You have yourself an amazing night.
You too.
And thanks, everybody, for listening on the Powerful Podcast. See you soon.